A closer look at Chapter 89 of Jin Ping Mei. Things in the world have always been like this. The beautiful woman's life is short, and she sighs for the unrivaled red powder and how much lowest it is. Could it be that God doesn't care and lets people decide what they like and dislike? She is endowed with a delicate appearance and a full intelligence, but she is sent back with a light heart. If this is not the case, I will not say a word if I ask Tianxin. It's a pity that the beauty and fragrance of the country can fade away at any time, leaving it buried like this. May I ask where the prosperity is? There are many singing and dancing on the terraces, spring outing on the purple road, sitting by the green window at night, sisters with charming eyebrows. Frustration in life never concerns the present or the past. The 89th chapter begins with a piece of yin of the Green Tower that matches the occasion. The story of Ximen Mansion is coming to an end, and most of the beautiful flowers and family members have been blown away by the rain and wind. The charming Li Pinger and the charming Pan Liwer went to another world, and the others who left and rushed have hidden what they are now. It's no wonder that the once famous male protagonists have passed away. The bustling and prosperous past, of course, the Ximen Mansion will become desolate and lonely day by day. Where is the prosperity? How many terraces are there for singing and dancing? This kind of sigh is the most true portrayal. The only people holding up the Ximen Mansion are Wu Yunyang, the First Lady, and Meng Yilu, who takes everything lightly. In order to maintain the future survival of Ximen Mansion, Wu Yunyang made the greatest efforts to increase revenue and reduce expenditure. Last time I wrote that Chen Jingji returned to King County with his father's coffin and missed Pan Jinlian's death. He tried every means to worship Jinlian and lived with his mother at home. At this time, Yunyang sent someone to bring Chen Jingji's coffin. My wife, Sister Ximen, is back. There is nothing wrong with this arrangement. Sister Ximen, dressed in mourning clothes, sat in a sedan chair, and first asked Mrs. Zhu to attend the ceremony and come to Chen's house. The daughter-in-law burned paper for her deceased father-in-law as a filial piety. Isn't it natural for a daughter-in-law who has been living in her parents' family for a long time to return home? However, Chen Jingji's reaction was furious. On the 16th day of the first lunar month, I posted the door god. He came half a month late. The man had also fallen into the earth before he came to offer sacrifices. Take the prostitute back as soon as possible. Thousands of them will die. What do I want her to do? Of course, Chen Jingjing's words were mixed with resentment towards Yunyang. He indirectly forced Xiaopan, whom he was infatuated with, to death, and devoured the box of property that he had originally given as a dowry. He spread these two words of hatred all over his head. He took advantage of his wife and drove her out of the house with her in her sedan chair. I have always felt that Sister Ximen is really the most pitiable woman in the whole book. Her father had been indifferent to her since she was a child, and her husband had always treated her like a passerby. But now she was insulted like this. She was like a duckweed. A sedan was tossed back and forth between two cold homes, excusing each other, but there was no one. A place to stay. When Wu Yunyang saw Sister Ximen being carried back the way she came, she was so angry that she fainted. Back then, your family hid in your father-in-law's house too. Support them for official affairs, and now they have turned against you and taken revenge. I just hate that the devil got a good deal. At home, something happened, and today he taught me how to be a stinky mouse, calling him such a stinky fart. Here, I feel that Wu Yunyang is a bit unkind. This is your late husband's biological daughter, seeing Sister Ximen being raped by Chen Jingyi with such insult and neglect. Shouldn't you seek justice and be a supporter for your child no matter what? And this is what she said. My child, you are his family in life, and his ghost in death. It is difficult for me to keep you in my family. If you go tomorrow, don't be afraid of him. I hope he won't take you into the well. He is so courageous. Han can't kill anyone. So what if there is no king in the world to control him? Just like that, the next day, Wu Yunyang persevered and sent Sister Ximen to Chen's house. Chen Jingji got into a fight as soon as he saw his daughter-in-law. I punched her hair as hard as I could. She drove her back again and said, if you don't ask for the dowry box to come home, I will kill you alive, a whore. Sister Ximen returned to Chen's house twice. and treated her like this. The failure ended, and I had no choice but to hide back at Simon's house. Reading these plots is really heartbreaking, and I sigh for Sister Simon, who has ever cared about her and loved her. For Woo Yoon-young at this time, what does her husband's last wish mean? What does a weak family relationship mean? After all, strength is worshipped, and money is the right way. If you don't believe it, you only need to look back and see her attitude towards the maid Chunmai, who was kicked out of the house and climbed to a high branch. Yes, Chunmai, who was ruthlessly driven away by Yoon-young, is about to make a grand appearance. In fact, we have already learned about Chunmai's current situation from the last gossip leader, Mrs. Seeing that he was good-looking, well-behaved and smart, he lived with him in 3 rooms in the West Wing and hired a maid to serve him. Now he holds the keys to all the warehouses, large and small, and they are on guard and don't listen to what he says. He is now 4 or 5 months pregnant, and I really don't like it. This is really a twist that's even more exciting than a drama. The former little maid has now become Tang Tang Guard's favorite second wife, who is in charge of money and is pregnant. Woo Yoon-young didn't believe in such a counterattack in life. Another person who firmly didn't believe it was Sun Zui. She thought that Sister Zhu was just a matchmaker, and she could make waves. In short, she just didn't believe that this little maid could become something big. However, on this Qingming festival, a special encounter told them the hard truth. Life is so cruel, time never stops passing, but things always change. I still remember the last Qingming festival, when Mr. Simon was at the peak of having children and getting promoted. The Qingming festival was full of ancestor worship, and it was as lively as possible. But this time, Simon's family has declined and withered, but his widow and young son are scattered in front of a few people. Come and worship. This contrast between the hustle and bustle and the coldness even reminded me of the lonely scene in A Dream of Red Mansions where my ancestors took a nap on a moonlit night. In short, there was a hint of sadness after a simple sacrifice in front of Simon King's tomb. Woo Yoon-young and her party went on a spring outing and came to Yangfu Temple, the burial place of Pan Jinlian. Yoon-young went to the temple to visit, and a scene appeared. Suddenly she saw the men in Xingyi. Walking away out of breath, the thunderstorm reported to the elder, "The little grandma in the mansion has come to offer sacrifices." The panicked elder put on his cassock and monk's hat. He rang the bells and drums in panic, and went out to greet him from the mountain gate. He was far away on a horse, waiting at the crossing. With such a majestic appearance, the character is really extraordinary. Next, a group of people in Xingyi gathered round a large sedan, flying in from Dongyan. All the sedan bearers were covered in sweat, and their clothes were wet. This little grandma, as everyone respectfully called her, was the old lady of spring plums. But Chunmai did nothing when she entered Yangfu Temple. She went straight to Pan Jinlian's grave under the poplar tree at the back of the temple, set up a sacrificial table, bowed 4 times, and said, "My mother, Sister Pang Pang is here to greet you today. You burn Mozi money, your benefits will go to heaven, and you will use money for your hardships. If I had known that you would die in the hands of your enemies, why would you marry me into the house and live with me? It's me who has delayed you, and it's already too late to regret." And then crying loudly, I have to say that the friendship between Chunmai and Pan Jinlian is as strong as gold and stone, and it deserves the word sincere. I feel that Pan Liwer will have a die-hard sister like Chunmai who will always remember her in her life. Thinking about her is a blessing. In the heart of the arrogant Chunmai, she will always recognize Pan Jinlian as her mistress and her eternal sister. I think it may be that Xiao Pan gave her some equality and some comfort between best friends. After all, Xiao Pan is not only naked lust and viciousness, but otherwise like a child without any scheming, with love and hate written all over her face, which has a magical fit with some of Chunmai's qualities. Woo Yoon-young asked the young monk in the temple why he worshipped like this. The young monk said that it was a sister of the little grandma buried in the temple. The smart Meng Yulu guessed that Chunmai had come, but Woo Yoon-young asked stupidly, "His sister died and was buried here?" Of course, it is unclear whether Woo Yoon-young was pretending to be stupid or whether she really didn't know. Later, Even though she knew that Pan Jinlian's grave was behind, Wu Yunyang had no intention of taking a look. She didn't like to see this woman in the first place. In the end, Meng Yulu went to pay homage to Pan Jinlian and cried. This is in line with Yulu's consistent personality. In the dark, this cry and bowing seemed to indicate that she was about to leave Ximen Mansion. Next, there is the wonderful reunion plot. After Chen Mai paid homage to Pan Jinlian, the elder reported to the young lady that there were still a few people avoiding her in the next room. So Chen Mai invited her to meet, but Wu Yunyang couldn't resist, so she had to come out to meet. Wu Yunyang's initial reluctance to come out is too easy to understand. This is the former little maid who was driven away by her and not allowed to take away a single thread. Today she has become a guarding grandmother. How embarrassing is it to see her? However, Chen Mei's reaction was as follows. Let the big concubine turn up first, and then Hua Zhaozhen kowtowed. The panicked Daqueezy did not return the courtesy and said, Sister, things are different now, so I would kill you. Chen Mai said, I am not that kind of person. It is a natural courtesy for people to be superior and inferior. Then he turned to Yunyang and Meng Yulu. Inserting candles is also like kowtow. Yunyang and Yulu also wanted to return the favor, but Chen Mai was willing. She helped her up, kowtowed to her for heads, and said, I didn't know it was the ladies here. If I had known, please come out and meet me, Yunyang said. Sister, you have been out since you left. The family is in the palace, and the slaves have always lacked courtesy. Don't blame me for not looking at you. Chen Mai said, Good grandma, how dare you say it's strange that I came from a slave. This section really made me sigh with emotion. Perhaps, a person's origin is like the imprint of his original family, which is difficult to get rid of. This is an eternal problem in the shackles of human nature for thousands of years. It is difficult for you to overcome certain things in your bones, similar to Ximen King, who was born in a prosperous family and has never read a book. His lack of confidence in the presence of officials with literary, Taoist and military skills. Or Pan Jinlian's abnormal self-esteem, who was sold at a low price since she was a child. I think, Chen, what Mei wants is the law of the world that she believes in her heart. If I consider you my master, you will be my forever master. For example, to Xiao Pan and Yunyang, if I think you are a servant, you will never be able to turn around. For example, to her son Zue. She will not overstep these distinctions between superiority and inferiority. She stubbornly adheres to her own set of rules. In front of her old master Yunyang and the sisters in the former mansion, she is still the same as before. But the performance of Yunyang and everyone is very thought-provoking. Similar to Sister Ximen above. Have you seen these attitudes in the changing world? In front of the splendid wealth and overwhelming ostentation, Yunyang and the others all became frightened. They would no longer be like Sister Ximen being sent off in a sedan chair, saying harsh words casually. Instead, they would be courteous and attentive. Yunyang said repeatedly to the former maid, My sister, just a word is enough. How dare I start you? I will go to see my sister in a day. She just wanted to sigh. Things in the world have always been like this. Always like this. It has always been the case, so there is no need to be too harsh. A closer look at chapter 90 of Jin Ping Mei. There are always people who can't wait for spring. In the darkest moments, optimistic people will always think of the poem. Winter is coming. Can spring be far behind? Cold comes and summer comes. The four seasons reincarnate. And after the harsh winter, spring will always come one after another. Meng Yulu is like this. Meng Yulu's first two marriages were realistic. The marriage from the stinky water alley to the young family selling cloth outside the south gate was the order of her parents and the matchmaker. The marriage from the young family to the Ximen family was even more the order of Zhu Po. Everything went through the process of both parties. The evaluation of all aspects of economy and status, of course, is also indispensable for the matchmaker's deception. The essence of marriage is partnership, testing each other, evaluating each other and taking appropriate risks. Meng Yulu is a suitable wife. She is capable and good at managing family affairs. She is restrained and good at managing interpersonal relationships. She is polite and behaves as a wife and concubine in the young family and Ximen family. Whether she enters the family or remarries, she does everything with dignity. Gaira's mother-in-law said of her, "You don't know who you are annoyed with, and you don't know who you like, so you can't show it. All your life, the master will be happy when you see him." This is true, but for the husband's favor cannot be said. Simon King respected her more than she did, but didn't love her enough. This favor should probably be in her third marriage. This marriage had a very romantic beginning. Li Yan'e, the son of the county magistrate, lived a romantic life, lazily studying poetry and reading, and watching vaudeville shows on the street. Suddenly I looked up and saw a group of women drinking in Gaofu. Among them was a long, slender woman. Unconsciously, my heart was shaken and my eyes were wandering. If it's not enough, you'll see more than enough, but you won't say anything in your mouth. Love at first sight, pure individual attraction, gave this marriage a layer of beauty that was destined to be a marriage from the beginning. Sun Zui seems to be the same way. Sun Zui was married to the first wife of the Chen family and was a maiden concubine. As a maiden concubine, half as a slave and half as a master. In a dream of red mansions, Mrs. You are still a slave. You came with us. You know that I have a good temper and I am not intolerant of others. I treat you well. In a year and a half, I will give birth to a boy and a girl. And you will be with me. Who of the people in the family are you going to order? And who is still there? If the ready-made master doesn't do it, it will be too late to regret if you miss this opportunity. It sounds very good, but Juanying is unwilling, saying that he is half the master. But in fact, the identity of that half-slave will always be engraved in his bones and people's hearts. Fang Guan blurted out to Aunt Zhao, "Auntie, there's no need to scold me. I wasn't bought from my aunt's family." Mix Xiang, "Thank you. They're all slaves." Aunt Zhao was so angry that she couldn't even speak. "He came up and beat me. Got 2 air scrapes." When you scold someone, don't expose your shortcomings. When you hit someone, don't slap them in the face. Being born as a slave is always a pain for Aunt Zhao. When a slave becomes a master, he is often more harsh than the master. It seems that it is understandable that Aunt Zhao is not likable, but Feng Wan never had such thoughts of offending Mrs. Wang in his sleep or dream. This is the natural difference between master and slave. Sun Zui, a maiden concubine, had no children and was not favored. She was almost invisible in the Ximen family. However, she never forgot that she was ranked 4th and wore a bun. She has been in conflict with Chunmai and Jinlian for a long time. Now, Simon King has died, Jinlian has died tragically, and Chunmai has been expelled. Sun Zui, who stayed at home, has been living a happy life in the guardhouse. She has never seen her old enemy Chunmai, tall and taller than before, with a face like the full moon, dressed in pink makeup and jade, with a crown on his head, piled with pearls and jade, half-undressed phoenix hairpin, wearing a bright red coat with bright red makeup, and a wide robe of green orchid and gold. She was wearing a colorful skirt, and was forbidden to walk with a jingle. However, she saw her old lover Lai Wanger turning out to be very fat. Back then, Lai Wanger survived the catastrophe and returned to his hometown of Shuzhou. Now he has gone round and returned to the border of King. It must be no accident. I was at home last year, and I heard people saying that my father was dead. My aunt gave birth to a brother, and she was very worried. The debt may not be cleared after death. Part of his past is left in Ximen's family, and the old love and hatred, all the grudges have not been scattered to the wind. Sun Zui's heart was filled with excitement. Yunyang's description of Chunmai after her return may have further fueled her desire to escape. She secretly agreed. "You come and go often. What's wrong with you? I have something to teach sister-in-law Zhao to tell you. I will come to you tomorrow evening. I'm waiting for you in the front wing of the Yamen with the purple wall. It's nothing more than making love in the clouds and rain, receiving gold and silver privately, and thinking, if we can't live well in this house from now on, why don't we quietly go out with you and find a house outside? Let's make them a couple. You know how to bank, and you're worried about not being able to make a living. It's enough to leave the Ximen family, have private money, and a man who knows how to be a craftsman. You can be a little rich and live in peace." Lai Wanger also had a ready-made plan. "Now, there is my aunt in Zimi Lane outside the East Gate. the famous birth attendant Kulaunayang. Where you are, the winding alley is out of sight, so the two of us will go there. Later, at that time, if there is no movement, I will take you to your hometown and buy a few acres of land to plant. Unfortunately, although the plan was good, it could not keep up with the changes. They arrived at Q's mother's house safely, but her son Ku Dang took advantage of the money and was captured with the stolen goods. Lai Wanger and Ku Dang were apprentices for 5 years, and the stolen goods were transferred to the official. Grandma Ku returned home, and Zue was sold by the official because Wu Yunyang refused to take it. After hearing the news, Chen Mai wanted to buy him to cook at home and slap him in the mouth to avenge the past. The little girl who bought the Ximen mansion with 16 taels of silver and whom Sun Zue once stabbed to the back of a knife on the stove became her master. At this point, Sun Zue had no choice but to take off her bun, change into colorful clothes, and go to the kitchen with a face full of sorrow. A closer look at Chapter 91 of Jin Ping Mei, The Only Beautiful Love. This time, except for the slightly unpleasant beginning and end, it can almost be said to be the most cheerful chapter in the whole book. This time, it's a love story. In the lush-ridden world of Jin Ping Mei, talking about love is an untimely luxury. But I am still willing to use the word love as a wedding gift for Meng Yulu's third marriage. Of course, my gift is just wishful thinking as a reader. Simon King is the first person responsible for giving her this wedding gift. If Simon King had not died, Meng Yulu would not have gone to Yangfu Temple in the suburbs to visit the grave during the Qingming festival. If he had not gone to visit Simon King's grave, Meng Yulu would not have met Li Yan'e. And if he had not met Li Yan'e, naturally this scene would not have happened. What a wonderful love story. It rains heavily during the Qingming festival, and pedestrians on the road feel like dying. Go into the graves of relatives is a sorrowful and soul-destroying thing. But the dead are already dead, and the living will continue to live as they please. What's more, this is the best time of the year, and the probability of rainy weather is far lower than the probability of sunny weather. Big. The wind is like the wind of willows, the water is like peach blossom water. Everything is joyful, and everything in the world is full of the vitality of the beginning of love. The Yamen are widowed, and the Yulu is widowed and husbandless. The jade trees in the Yamen are facing the wind, and the jade towers are romantic and pretty. In the colorful spring scenery, among millions of people, one more glance at each other led to this legendary marriage. Just because I took one more look at you in the crowd and could never forget your face. I dreamed of meeting you again one day by chance. From then on, I began to feel lonely and miss you. The legend is a bit excessive and disgusting, but there is no doubt that the two fell in love at first sight. They are interested in each other, and they express it without saying anything. It's just that at that time, Li Yan'e couldn't step forward and ask directly, "This little lady, will you be my wife?" He still has to go through a lot of troubles to win the beauty back. The opportunity came soon. Simon King's fourth wife, Sun Zue, took Siron and Lai Wang away and ran away, but was arrested by the government. Li Yan'e knew her identity, so he notified Wu Yunyang to go to the Yamen to redeem her. He happened to inquire whether Meng Yulu was willing to marry her. This Sun Zue is nominally Simon King's little wife. She ranks behind Meng Yulu and before Pan Jinlian and Li Pinger. In fact, she is just a hothead without any dignity as a master. Not only does Pan Jinlian make things difficult for her at every turn, but the servants also how to treat her. There was only one Lai Wang, and although she was a concubine, he was somewhat sincere to her. Lai Wang was deported to his hometown because of Song William's incident. At this time, he returned to King County and started a small business in the streets. The two people who had a relationship reunited, and they became a widowed husband and a long-lasting couple. Sun Zue was willing to follow Lai Wang to farm in the countryside. It's a pity that she was very unlucky. She just got involved with Siron and escaped, but before she left the city, the incident came to light, and she was arrested and taken to the Yamen. And her misfortune is far from over. Wu Yunyang, who was timid and fearful of trouble, refused to go and get people. Li Yan'e's plan came to nothing, and he had to find another way. Simply, don't beat around the bush and send a matchmaker to Simon King's house to find out. Li Yanni's family is a serious official. If he wants to marry the wife of the wife, he must find a serious official matchmaker. Tao's mother was naturally very happy to get this good job. After hearing this, Tao's mother liked it and ran as fast as flying. One day she arrived at the head of Jin Ping Mei. Being a matchmaker depends on your mouth. No matter how wild the official is, who is not a sharp-tongued person. The same goes for Mrs. Tao, but she is not like Mrs. Wang Zhu, who makes trouble and confuses right and wrong. Perhaps it's because the official matchmaker has a fixed income from the government, and she gets a lot of reward money for the transaction. She also gets a basic salary even if the deal is not successful, so there is no need to use any means to achieve the goal. To use an inappropriate metaphor, it's like employees of state-owned enterprises who have a fixed income first. Of course, it's okay to have a larger commission, but it's not a big deal to have a smaller commission. Therefore, the enthusiasm for work may be a little less, but the deception and abduction that will not give up until the goal is achieved, maybe it's also less, not to mention that they mainly serve wealthy officials. So they probably don't dare to deceive their superiors or subordinates. For those who hold the iron job, performance is secondary and stability is the first priority. When she remarried Jin Ping, Meng Yulu thought she was going to be the wife in charge, but who knew that she was the wife of the third wife? There was a greedy and stingy wife above her. And there was a wife who was richer than her, more charming and unparalleled than her. As Xiao Wu and Xiao Yu, she could only bear the disadvantage of being dumb and be a well-behaved Meng Sanyang who did not fight or grab. Therefore, when I remarry this time, I will be extra careful and will never suffer the same fate as last time. So even though Tao's mother said that the Yemen would marry Meng Yulu as the head wife when she came up, she was still cautious and asked everything clearly. Yulu smiled and said, "Mom, don't talk nonsense. How old are you in your office this year? Have you ever married a wife or children? Is there anyone in the house whose last name is there? Is there an official title but not an official title? To be honest, don't bother me, lie." After Tao's mother finished detailing the family background of the Yemen, Yulu continued to ask, "Do you have any children in the Yemen? Where are you from? I'm afraid that when your term is over, you will be taken away by thousands of mountains and rivers, and all your slaves and relatives will be here. Why don't you also go with him?" After getting a satisfactory answer from Tao's mother, she even embarrassedly explained why she asked so clearly. "Baoshan, don't blame me for interrogating you. You, a matchmaker, lie a lot. Slaves are afraid of being cannibalized." Tao's mother said, "Good grandma, just one is better than the other, pure from the pure, mud from the mud. The good will bring down the bad." The little daughter-in-law does not tell lies. She only acts as a matchmaker according to her duty. If grandma is willing, write a wedding invitation to me so that I can get back to my little daddy. Meng Yulu is naturally very willing. Yulu took a big red paragraph and asked Diane to write the 8 characters of his birth date to the clerk Fu in the shop. Meng Yulu is a typical appearance association. One of the important reasons why she was willing to marry Jin Ping was that she had met Jin Ping before and fell in love with his romantic character. Now that she fell in love with Li Yanni at first sight, she fell in love with him again because of his good looks and romantic character. From today's perspective, it seems childish, but compared with many women in the book who became Jin Ping's mistress for the sake of financial gain, Meng Yulu's feelings seem quite simple and rare. Wu Yunyang, who knew Meng Yulu's thoughts, did not stop her, but was willing to be an adult. "The first thing is that the woman also finds a matchmaker," Wu Yunyang said. "You were originally the matchmaker Zhu's sister-in-law said, but now you have the young man called Zhu's sister-in-law to come." And the two of them took the post together. Talking about this marriage is the only etiquette. Not long after, the emissary Daener called Mrs. Zhu to come and saw Tao's mother and wished her blessings. The two matchmakers went hand in hand to achieve a good marriage and earn a few taels of money. Speaking of Mrs. Tao, she is timid after all. She doesn't know what to do when she encounters some problems. When she saw that Meng Yulu was 6 years older than Yan'e, she was a little unsure, because she saw on the wedding post that it said, Girl's life is 37 years old, 11 years old. On the 27th day of the month, Shisheng was born. He said, I'm afraid that Yamini thinks he's too old. What's wrong? He's only 31 years old now, but he's 6 years older. Mrs. Su is still a veteran of the world and knows how to adapt. Let's take this wedding post and make friends with a passing gentleman to see if his age is an obstacle. If it's not right, I won't be lying by telling him how old he is. This is not lying. So why is it considered lying? Meng Yulu and Li Yan'e were a match made in heaven. They were compatible even if their ages had not changed. They were afraid that Yan'e would think Yulu was too old. So to be sure, they asked a fortune teller to change their age by 3 years. If they don't change their ways and tell the Yaman directly that Meng Yulu is 6 years older than him, I wonder if the marriage can still happen. The marriage was originally determined in the previous life, and I once came to Lanshan to plan jade. It's better not to make assumptions and let Yulu and Yan'e get married properly. The last time I got married to Simon King, it was not only a side house, but also because my fourth uncle made a big fuss in the street. Many people watched and made a lot of jokes. This time, although it was to fill a house, it was a serious matter. She is a serious lady, not to mention that the Yamini family is also a serious official, so the wedding scene is naturally different. On the 8th day of April, the county government prepared 16 plates of soup and tea cakes, a gold silk crown, a gold head and face, an agate belt, a jingle and 7 things, gold bracelets and silver necklaces, and 2 pieces of red palace brocade, robes for sets of colorful clothes, 30 taels of gift money, and the rest of cloth, silk, and cotton flowers, totaling about 20 loads. 2 matchmakers followed, and the official Hebu Atin went to Simon King's house to have tea. I remember that when Yulu married into the Simon mansion, she brought to Nanjing gold-painted bamboo beds. As soon as she entered the house, Simon's eldest sister was about to get married. So Simon King gave one of Yulu's bamboo beds to the eldest sister as a dowry. Although the eldest sister and Chen Jingji have been living in Simon King's house these years, and have brought many boxes and belongings with them, they did not bring back the bed that their wives had left with them. This time Yulu remarried, Yunyang gave Meng Yulu the mother-of-pearl bed that Simon King had bought for Pan Jinlian. All the things in Meng Yulu's room were also taken away by Yulu. From this point of view, Yulu's marriage is inextricably linked to the female relatives of Simon Mansion. Wu Yunyang was more generous than ever at this time. The bed she was married to was the bed Pan Jinlian had slept on before. Pan Jinlian's bed was the one she asked Simon King for when she saw that Li Pinger had such a bed. Chumiri later, when I went to the Simon courtyard, Pan Jinlian's mother-of-pearl bed was missing, and I was really sad. I don't know where the bed that Yulu had given to the eldest sister Simon was, and the eldest sister's marriage would also end tragically. Yulu got on the sedan chair happily. Although some passers-by pointed fingers, they were not all bad-mouthed. What's more, it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad, Li Yan'e is waiting for her in front, and good days are also waiting for her in front. A closer look at chapter 92 of Jin Ping Mei. He is stupid and bad, and of course he will not live a good life. My father-in-law led me in, and I practiced on my own. Over the years, he has not seen Simon King's vision and skills. He has not seen Simon King's cunning and scheming. He has not seen Simon King's magnanimity and ability to bend and stretch, and he has not seen it. He only saw that Simon King had good food, good housing, good-looking women, and Earl Ying's words were particularly nice. I only saw the thief eating meat, but I didn't see the thief being beaten. Simon King has been successful in this life because he seems to have no scruples. But in his heart he has always strictly adhered to the rules. He has 2 principles. First, not to offend those he cannot afford to offend. Second, not to harm those closest to him. The first one is external, and can be roughly understood as picking up the weak persimmons. The second one is internal, to ensure that the backyard does not catch fire. Therefore, Simon King is loose on the outside and tight on the inside, which seems to be dangerous but actually safe. I often hear people say that being a good person is too tiring, so just be a bad person. This may be an angry statement, but I still have to say that this is completely wrong. Humans are naturally social animals and must survive in groups and cooperate with others. In an acquaintance society like China, this is a process of repeated games. Today you give me a handful of rice. Tomorrow I will give you a piece of candy. Today your daughter is getting married. I will help with the reception. Tomorrow I will be bullied. You will come to help. Bit by bit. Endless loop. Of course there are conflicts, but they will not break out suddenly or turn against each other. After all, we see each other every day. Even if we don't get along with each other, we still have to maintain human relations. Otherwise, you will be excluded in this group and your life will be difficult. Therefore, as far as an ordinary person is concerned, being a good person is certainly restricted by the rules, but it is also protected by the rules. But being a bad person will make you the target of public criticism and make it difficult to move forward. Of course, Simon King is a bad guy, but precisely because he is a bad guy, he has to keep his limits. This is Simon King's way of survival and his successful experience. But this time, everything Chen Jingjing did was completely the opposite of Simon King. He stepped on all the traps and violated all the taboos. Externally, he mistrusted his friend and lost both property and property. He was obsessed with wealth and lust, and dreamed of using blackmail to gain Meng Yulu's beauty and family property. However, he was framed and imprisoned. Internally, he emptied his family's wealth and took away his mother's coffin, indirectly killing his mother. He doted on his concubines and killed his wife, forcing Sister Simon to death, which completely offended Wu Yunyang. Not only did he lose the largest foreign aid in the local area, he also forged a deep hatred. Meng Yulu was someone he couldn't afford to offend, but he decided to offend him. His mother and wife were people he could never harm, but he chose to do so. In the final analysis, Chen Jingji's failure was not only because he was bad, but also because he was stupid. Economist Chen's family was well off, and he was related to Yang Jian, the most powerful man in the dynasty. Even if you are not born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you can be regarded as being reincarnated with a silver rice bowl, and your future is good. Unexpectedly, not long after their marriage, something happened to Yang Jian, and his father-in-law, a country bumpkin who he had previously despised, became his only way out. Overnight, he fell from being a playboy to being a dependent. The environment changed greatly, and the psychological gap was also huge. Therefore, Chen Jingji always has a bit of a twist. In his eyes, making money is simple, picking up girls is easy, good clothing and food are necessary, and success and fame are natural. He never doubted his ability. He only felt that God was unfair. As long as he was given a chance, he would be able to rise to prominence. He has great ambition but little talent, and he has high vision and low hand. Eager for success, yet at a loss. In fact, in terms of ruthlessness, he is not as good as the guy who played the role Bag Club. In terms of dexterity, he is not as good as Meng Yulu's frame-up. All his harshness was reserved for his family members, but it was completely useless once he entered society. Even before completing the tasks in Novice Village, he was thinking about how to slay the dragon. He is obviously a bronze, but he feels like a king. Chen Jingjing is still running wild, but his story is running out.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.